The Carolina Panthers are less than 10 days away from drafting their franchise quarterback and hopefully turning things around for the better. They've been hurting for years. Ever since Cam Newton left, they've failed to replace him and find a franchise guy. But hopefully, in a couple of days, we will find out who will be the guy to try to right the wrongs and right the ship. But today, the Carolina Panthers front office members, as in Scott Fitterer, Dan Morgan, and Cole Spence, sat down and had a press conference and was available for the media just to preview what they were looking at for the draft, where they at in the process, what things they're going to be targeting, and just some other random questions. So I'm going to go into all that and break down what some of the key takeaways I thought from today's presser was, because with Scott Fitterer, you guys know he can't hold water. He drops nuggets as usual. You got to kind of read between the lines a little bit, so it's going to be kind of hit or miss or here and there. No, regardless, there's a lot of sound bites I'm going to drop. I'm going to put in some clips. Of course, we got to still talk about quarterback, guys. I know, yes, another quarterback video, but Scott Fitterer also talked about a few other things that are going to be paying attention for the draft and just some things around the team. So make sure you watch the whole video and make sure you get all these nuggets, because my boy Scott Fitterer always is dropping heat. But before we get into that, my name is Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Blunt and Sports Talk, bringing you recap and analysis of the Carolina Panthers. So if you want to see more videos like this with breakdowns and stuff, I'm going to be recapping the draft and have film on every prospect that gets drafted by the Panthers, of course, and break down and evaluate them. So make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell icon. That way you get a notification every time I drop a video. I'm almost at 10,000 subscribers, so go ahead and please hit that subscribe button to help me make that journey. I'll probably do a giveaway or something when I get to 10,000. Maybe you'll get a Bryce jersey or a CJ jersey or Anthony Richardson jersey. I'll do a giveaway for it. But regardless, I'll probably do some kind of celebration because I'm almost at 10K. Also, please take 2 seconds. Get a video thumbs up real quick, please, because it really helps me out in the algorithm and gets the word out to other Panthers fans, and they can subscribe and help me get to 10,000. It really helps a lot. Doesn't cost you a thing. Only takes 2 seconds, okay? But, of course, we know the first question that the press and the media was going to ask Scott Fitterer: have you made a decision on who your quarterback one is going to be next Thursday in Kansas City for the NFL draft? Scott Fitterer had this to say. Drop the clip.
You know, obviously through this whole since February, the combine, everything else, there's been some clarity, but we've made a conscious effort to be open mind about this, be continuous throughout the process. We have the last kind of group in today. We have the coaches, Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and at that point, we'll get together and kind of make that decision. But we've got some clarity through this process.
With that said, Scott, we saw yesterday that Bryce.
As you can see, they're still putting it off because obviously C.J. Stroud and Will Levis actually had a visit, a top 30 visit like we talked about in my previous video today. They both came at the same time, the same day that they had this press conference. So the evaluation process is still going on. My opinion, they traded up because they had somebody in mind. Who is that? I don't know. But they wanted to give all the other quarterbacks a chance of talking them out of that position. We've heard reports talking about they're treating it like the San Francisco 49ers did when they traded up for Trey Lance. Apparently, they traded up with Mac Jones in mind, but after the evaluation process, Trey Lance wowed them enough, and I guess they got bullied by people online to the point that they took Trey Lance because of the upside. Will they happen with the Panthers? We will find out. We may get some more bits and pieces on who they had in mind initially, but for now, they haven't made a decision yet, and they're still going through the process and making sure they not leaving any stone unturned. So I really appreciate the thorough process. You know what I'm saying? This is a big decision. You know what I'm saying? You're trading up number one, make your next move your best move, do all the due diligence. There's no need for smoke screens. You don't need to hide anything. Nobody's picking in front of you. Nobody's going to trade up in front of you. Do the homework and make sure you get your guy. But Scott Fitterer was also asked about whose input and how much weight would everybody have in the process. He pretty much disclosed about how that with so many good football minds in the building, like Jim Caldwell, Frank Wright, Josh McCown, Thomas Brown, it would be dumb. It would be dumb for them not to take everybody's feedback into consideration because they have a wealth of experience. That's why David Tepper went out and spent all this money on his coaching staff, to make sure you have all the brightest minds as possible that money can buy, because they have a very rich owner, and they've had put in their input and their 2 cents on picking the right guy and also having a part in developing that right guy and who has that prep path and trajectory to help take the Panthers where they're going to be. Now, Scott Fitterer, they were asked about, hey, David Tepper has said he's not going to be involved. He's leaving it up to Scott Fitterer and Frank Wright. Scott was asked who's going to have the final say-so, whose word is going to trump what. And Fitt had much confidence in the fact that he didn't think there would be any disagreement between him and Frank Wright, although he's already put on record that he's not going to ask Frank until probably the end of the week who he has his pick, because he didn't want to cloud his judgment throughout the evaluation process by telling him who and what were their favorites on the way. They wanted to let them take a full view of everybody, and then at the end, almost near the finish line, put your summary together and put why you want this guy. He has confidence that they'll be on the same page because apparently it sounds like they've had conversations, and Scott feels like in his gut they're going to probably see the things the same way because they've been on the same page so much as they've been working together that he feels like they're probably going to be there for the right guy. Frank Wright has also been on record saying that he's not going to be a guy that's going to be like Matt Rule. Matt Rule, apparently he was going to nag until he got his way, and it wasn't really collaborative as they wanted to preach. Frank Wright said he's not an argumentative type of guy. He likes being on the same page, so whatever agreement they can come to, they're going to make that their best decision. So I love that approach. It's actually a collaborative approach, and it sounds like they're going to be working good together because Scott Fitterer is on the hot seat. Believe it or not, he's on the hot seat. You know what I'm saying? These moves that they've made is going to have to work. Spend way too much money for them to clean house on coaches. The first one out the door, if these things go wrong, is going to be Scott Fitterer. So they need to make sure they're on the same page, and they need to make sure they make the right decision. But one thing Scott Fitterer did confirm is that there probably won't be trading the pick. He said he knows his nature. He's always listening. He's willing to listen in any offer about any player or any pick. But unless he gets completely blown out the way, he's not trading the pick. So the whole smoke screen thing, trying to bait Houston into coming up, doesn't seem likely. And we talked about in the previous video that now Houston is talking about moving back, not moving up to number 1 with the Panthers. So that whole rumor and speculation about that, can we please put that to bed? I'm so tired of talking about that and thinking things are a smoke screen. The Panthers will be choosing number 1. The only thing we don't know is who is it going to be. But I want to skip ahead a little bit to another question that was asked, and I have a clip to talk about it, but they talked about the issue of having a short quarterback and compensating for the size and some of the issues that can arise. I want to roll this question about the question about batted balls at the line of scrimmage. We know we had Baker Mayfield last year, and that was a huge problem. He got booed constantly. You guys were booing Baker Mayfield with good reason. However, Bryce, this is an interesting question to ask because he's shorter than Baker Mayfield. So let's go ahead and roll the clip when he was asked about batted passes.
Well, I would say this. When Russell Wilson came out, I think he had 3 balls batted down his senior year. Bryce had 2. So if you're talking just about Bryce, this doesn't seem to be an issue. When you grow up, a shorter quarterback, you learn how to, evolve your game and adapt and see the field. And he's done that, just like CJ's, evolved his game. Will's evolved his game. They all develop, and there's certain tools that they have, and they learn to play to their strength, and they've all done that.
Yeah, to me, it's a lot more. It's not about so much the height. You got to have those pocket instincts, your ability to slide, find passing lanes. So you got to look at other things like that, and then obviously how smart and how well a quarterback sees the field is also important. So, you got to take more than the size into account.
As you can see, he did the numbers. He did the math. Russell Wilson got 3 batted balls. Bryce Young only had 2. You can find the passing windows. The fact that Dan Morgan even had the wherewithal to chime in and add that little part in lets me know they feel pretty confident about Bryce. You would not be making these kind of excuses or explanations for a quarterback that you don't feel that strong about, and clearly they feel pretty strong about. You could even see some of the people around him looking at him like he was crazy, like, hey, you're kind of spilling the beans, bro. Don't go too far in about Bryce. You know what I'm saying? Usually they give that coach speak, high-level stuff, but for him to come to defense and come to bat for Bryce Young and keep talking about Russell Wilson, that lets me know they feel pretty strong about him. Now, you could talk about Russell Wilson and Drew Brees being an anomaly and not being the norm, and Bryce Young is going to have his own battles to face, and that'd be fair, especially when it comes to his weight, because they asked Scott Fitterer about his weight as well. He had an answer for that. Let's roll that clip.
Yeah, I think, nutritionally we can do some things to educate him. We get him in the weight room. You can see when you really look at his lower body has gotten bigger. He's put on a lot of mass down there. A lot of times quarterbacks don't want to lift upper body because you get a little bit bound up. But there's some things he's going to naturally put on size as he ages as well. Again, going back to Russ, I think he came out at 200, maybe he might have been 206 pounds. He's at 220 now. I mean, guys just grow. That's something he can control, and that's something we can help him with. We can't control the height.
Hey, man, they already said they got Bryce Young diet plan ready. They already had stuff in mind to add some weight to his lower body. Man, this is crazy because this is very specific. It lets me know that they put a lot of thought into this and that either these are the plans that they're probably going to go with, and it's sounding more and more likely that they have a plan in place to support Bryce because that's the way they're going, or that they just have no concerns. To me, if they put that much thought process into it, they know what they're doing. Now, he talked about just getting older and naturally gaining weight, and as me being 32 years old, well, I'm going to be 32 this year, I can let you know that weight is harder to keep off as you get older. I'm very much in shape. You saw my combine video. I'm a former athlete myself. As you get older, the weight just seems to find you. Now, living in the South, especially in this area, Bojangles, Cookout, all of the above, that will definitely put some meat on your bones. So I have no doubt that Bryce Young, with a Bowberry biscuit in hand, will be able to gain weight, especially in the lower body, probably in the midsection too, like your boy. So I have confidence that Bryce Young can actually get his weight up. He talked about Russell Wilson being about the same weight that Bryce weighed in at 204, 205 or whatever, 206, and ended up being 220 now. So there's a process that's going to happen, but as he gets older, he's going to gain weight, put him in a strength and conditioning program with professional nutrition. He's going to grow. So Scott Fitterer, like I said, he's got a question and a reason for every concern that the media brought to him. I asked about the S2 scores also. I want to add this little nugget because a lot of people are suspecting that this S2 test that is kind of like the replacement for the Wonderlic. It's supposed to monitor your processing. It's not really like a written SAT standardized test. It's more like boom, boom, boom. Let me show, like almost like Simon. Let me show you a square, circle, a triangle. What pieces do you have to go to get through a round hole? And if you're over here trying to put a square peg through a round hole, you may not process faster than a guy that realizes that, oh, this is a round hole. Let me put the round shape through that. That's just kind of the concepts and stuff. That's very basic, but that's kind of what you see. And they just measure how fast you process that type of information. And so what your cognitive skills are. So this is something that was used in baseball a lot more, but it seems that it's going to be catching on more for the quarterback position. And apparently C.J. Stroud did not have a great score, which is why some people are speculating his stock may be falling. But Bryce Young apparently outdid a lot of people in history. He's one of the most in the 99 percentile for scores. So Bryce Young's processing and smarts and instincts is a good, attractive reason why they like them. And they said that's not a be-all, end-all, but it's definitely a differentiating factor. When you say differentiating, that means it separates him, as in separates from somebody else, as in somebody that may have a bad score, as in C.J. Stroud. So that's where my doubts come in about them wanting Stroud over Bryce Young. I'm just reading the breadcrumbs and trying to follow the trail right there. So the S2 test, it's been sweeping the nation, but apparently it's here to stay and something they'll be using more going forward. But let's change gears real quick and talk about quarterback as well still, but somebody that's already on the roster. They asked Scott Fitterer how, with all this draft talk and trading up and the new coaching staff, how does this affect Matt Corral, your rookie, and where he's at? Scott kind of danced around the answer, but he said that Corral's going to come in and compete. He's going to have an opportunity to compete. If you could play, you could play. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But he also said that Matt Corral has bulked up to 220 pounds. Matt Corral was around 210 or so, or a little bit less than that, coming out for the combine last year. So for him to gain that weight and put on a little bit of muscle, get a little bit thicker and tougher, maybe that'll help him be a little bit more durable himself. That also lets me know that they have the plan in place to help Bryce do the same type of thing going forward in the future. Guys, it is possible for a smaller quarterback to be able to add weight. The proof is in the pudding with the guy on our roster already in Matt Corral. We'll see what type of legit shot he has, because we talked about where he was in the rehab process in a couple of videos ago, showing that he's actually throwing now and taking drops with no boot, no hesitation, no kind of limitations. So we'll see if he participates in the offseason workouts that's going to be happening when they start throwing and cranking it up a little bit more after the draft. But Matt Corral seems to be doing well, in shape. Body's right now, gaining some weight, adding some muscle. I'm rooting for the kid still, man. I want to see Matt Corral do well. It's just the eyes are stacked up against him, man, and it may be a wrap for him as a Carolina Panther, but they'll probably likely still keep him on the roster just in case to see what he has. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about Matt Corral bulking up to 220, man. Like, how you feel about him being in shape and Fitterer saying that he's good to go. He's going to have a chance to compete. Let me know how you feel down below. But he was also asked about the draft because, yes, there's other picks in the draft besides number 1 overall. They asked Scott Fitterer what he thought the other positions of needs were, and this is what he said.
Yeah, I think you always need a pass rusher. I mean, we could beef up the offensive line. We've done a lot of things at receiver, but you can always add a receiver, linebacker. I mean, no team's ever complete, and you can always add whoever. But we're gonna the whole part of like free agency is for us. This is our philosophy and has been is to go into the draft to be able to pick the best player available, and so we've done that. When it comes down to best player available, and there's two guys at certain positions, and one position is a need. Say it's a linebacker, then the need is a linebacker. So going into it, we're aware of where our weaknesses are. And we'd like to address that, but we're not going to force it.
And I've talked about this on numerous occasions. They try to address all the team needs and holes in free agency. They may not be the best answer, but they try to address to at least get a guy in the position that we can get by, as in somebody that you count on that can start if need be, but you don't have a hole there anymore. You may still have a need and you could probably upgrade, but you don't have a hole there because you addressed it. This leads you to a point where in the draft, you can go best player available. You don't have to reach for whatever because you know you're desperate for whomever. You're already trading up for your quarterback. That's technically a reach because you went from 9 to 1, but everything else you need to be able to take advantage of and get the best player available. But he talked about edge, moving offensive line, wide receiver. I personally think tight end, but he put a lot of emphasis on linebacker. I did not realize linebacker was such a big need for what they thought. I thought they were going to roll with Brandon Smith and Shaq and a combination of Louisville and Chin being in the box at times. I thought they were good there, but it sounds like they want to add another linebacker, and maybe that's just could be the heir apparent behind Shaq Thompson whenever that his 2-year deal is up. Regardless, they're looking at those positions. I personally think that wide receiver should be a top priority. I think we need some juice. I have a video coming out soon talking about the new additions to the offense, breaking down some film on that, so stay tuned for that. But I still think that we need some help on offense, but edge is definitely a priority as well. You guys let me know down below in the comments what you think about the names and the positions that Scott Fitterer lists. What do you think out of those 4 positions? What do you think is the biggest need, in your opinion, for this team to upgrade? I just thought that Scott putting these nuggets out there, he doesn't say these things for no reason. He can't hold water. He tells it like it is. There's no coaching speak. That's what I love about hearing Scott Fitterer talk, and that's why I always make videos whenever he has a press conference. But you guys let me know down below in the comments how you felt about anything we talked about. Do you think that Bryce is the guy that's been going to all these depths to explain away all these issues and concerns? And it is what it is. But I also want to get you guys' thoughts about that position of need like I just talked about. Regardless, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel to stay up to date with all this draft content I'm going to be covering up to the process. Got a lot of exciting things leading up to that draft. We are 9 days away as of today. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up as well. I'll see you next time. Peace.